Hey everybody, this is Matt from Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews, and today I'm going to be going over my November to-be-read list. I'm looking forward to going through these books with you, and there's a lot of good books on this list. And before we begin, I hope you excuse me, my voice sounds off, I've got a pretty bad cold, but we are just going to push on through, because the schedule of these videos does not wait for any little puny cold. So let's start with book number 1, and this is Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. This is part of the Book of the Ancestor, I think it's a trilogy, and I am doing this via audiobook, and I'm currently in the middle of it. I'm about, I don't know, 2/3 of the way through, and I'm predicted to finish this on November 3rd, and this is 480 pages. And right now, I'm going to give this predicted rating a 4 out of 5. If I was to grade it today, that's what I'd give it. It could go a little up, could go a little down. And I'm liking this book so far. I was a little nervous going into it because my only experience with Mark Lawrence before this was reading the Prince of Thorns and King of Thorns. I think it's called Broken Empire. And I didn't really love it. You know, I thought the first book was good, rather good. The book overall I thought was okay. I liked the ending enough to give the book a 4 out of 5. But I really disliked the second book for a lot of reasons. And part of it was the writing style, not so much the quality of the writing. I think Mark Lawrence is a very good writer, but I didn't love a lot of the choices that he made and the way that he told the story, particularly in the story structure. So going into this one, I was nervous, although it was tempered a little bit by, I heard from a lot of people that reached out to me that said, you know, don't give up on Mark Lawrence because he has a lot of writing that appeals to different types of people, and he doesn't write one style of book. And everybody kept saying I should read Book of the Ancestor. So yeah, I am liking it so far. I am not in love with it. There are a few problems I'm having with the book so far, but nothing that's really ruining the story for me. I think it's an engaging story, and I'm looking forward to where it's going. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this ending has in store. If it's anything like what I experienced with Mark before, he does very good endings to his books. So hopefully that's the same. And I'll look forward to reviewing that book, and that review should probably come out on the 4th. When these books finish, I'll usually record the video and produce it in a short amount of time, and it should come out the next day. So the next book is The Lonesome Crown, and this is part of the 5 Warrior Angels trilogy. It's the last book in the trilogy, and this is by Brian Lee Durfee. I'm in the middle of reading it right now. I just started yesterday. I'm reading this in book format, and I should finish this on November 8th. And this is a pretty chunky book. This is 1,088 pages, and I'm predicting to give this a 5 out of 5, and I'm very confident this is going to end up a 5 out of 5 because I thought the first 2 books were some of my favorite 2 books that I've ever read. They were both top tier books, probably both top 20-ish books I've ever read. And so I'm pretty confident this book is going to end in an amazing fashion because I have immense faith in Brian Lee Durfee. I'm very excited. This book doesn't actually come out till the end of the month, but I got an advanced copy of it. So that's awesome. I couldn't wait. I was going to wait to read this book for a little while, but I couldn't. I'm so excited about this series, I have to get into it. Now, I don't know if I'm allowed to release my review of this as soon as I finish the book. I'm going to record my video, as always, the moment I read the last, few words of the page, of the final page. But I don't know if I'm going to release it right away. I have to reach out to the publisher, see if that's okay. If it is, expect this review to come out in a week and a half or so. And if not, then waiting a little bit further on in the month. But oh man, I am in love with the 5 Warrior Angels. I recently released a video of my top 10 most underrated fantasy books series, and I had this series as my number 1. So if you're a fan of my videos, you already know that I love this series, so you should know how excited I am to finish out this trilogy. The next book is going to be The House in the Cerulean Sea. This is a standalone book written by TJ Klune. I'm going to be doing this in audiobook format, and I should finish that on November 9th. And this is a smaller book, 394 pages, and I am not very optimistic that I'm going to like this book. I'm a very optimistic kind of guy. I always give 4s and 5s usually for what I think a book's going to be, but I'm going to predict that I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5. Why am I reading it, though? It's because I've had it recommended to me by so many people. It's enormously highly rated. Everyone's talking about this book. Not so much in like the epic fantasy realm of people, but more in the lighthearted, I don't know how to describe it, but I think kind of more of like a cozy fantasy. It does not like high fantasy. I don't really know much about it though. It's got a very kind of fluffy cover that doesn't evoke a lot of strong feelings. I don't think it's dealing with these major epic events, which is my kind of thing. And I've read books kind of like this before and I didn't love them, but I feel like that's more of a me thing, and I want to not be pigeonholed into only liking one type of thing. And so I want to keep giving these kinds of books a shot. You know, another book that I'm not certain is even close to this, but it reminds me of the same kind of people like this. Also, I found like Piranesi that I will read eventually. But books that I need to be convinced that I like these kind of things, but I'm really going to put, you know, my best energy forward towards liking a book. I don't want to go into it pessimistic and saying like, oh, I'm going to hate this. I want to like it. I'm going to give it my best effort, and hopefully I am proven wrong here. I love to be proven wrong. The next book is going to be Grey Sister. This is the next in the book of the Ancestor by Mark Lawrence. And I'm basically 100% confident that I'm going to like this first book enough to keep moving on through this trilogy. I'll give this next book a shot, most certainly, unless the ending is just absolutely atrocious, which I'm pretty confident it's not going to be. I'm going to continue doing this via audiobook. Should finish this up around the 17th. And this is only 432 pages, so pretty short. And again, I'm going to throw my prediction on a 4 out of 5. But yeah, liking this series so far. I'll definitely keep going. No idea where the story's going to go. I know nothing about it other than what I've read. Don't know anything about what the next books have in store other than I think it's a trilogy, but I could be wrong about that. The next book is a book that I'm sure almost all of you are going to read, and this is The Lost Metal. This is part of the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. I'm going to be reading this in book format. Should finish that around the 19th, and that's 528 pages. And I'm going to be optimistic and say a 4 out of 5. And that's optimistic because I have not loved the second arc of Mistborn. If you're not familiar, Mistborn is going to be separated into 4 different arcs. 4, I didn't go like 4 different arcs. And the first arc was Mistborn Era 1, and it was amazing. It's one of my all-time great trilogies. I love everything about that, and it's one of the reasons that I thoroughly love Brandon Sanderson. But the next era of this, it just has not worked for me. It's trying to be a series that I'm not all about. It's trying to be more funny, and I don't think Brandon Sanderson's a very funny writer. I know that it clicks for some people. Comedy is very subjective, and for me, it just doesn't work. Now, I think there's even more people that are like, he's awesome, he's so funny. I don't know why, it just doesn't click with me. So when he tries to be this Terry Pratchett kind of writer and write these Terry Pratchett kind of characters, it falls flat. It's also, you know, I have these expectations. I think a lot of book reading is about expectations and trying to meet your expectations. My expectations were that I was going to get this more epic fantasy feel that I got from the first era, and I have not got that. This is a lighter series with smaller books, dealing with kind of almost more of like a kind of westerny, kind of Victorian theme. Those are very different, but the main character kind of comes from this more Western background, and then it's getting into this more urban landscape. And I like the idea, though, of Mistborn and what Brandon Sanderson's trying to do. I don't know that this era needed to be told, because originally it was just going to be 3. You know, I'm not saying it right, but I know that he had this idea to write this 3-part trilogy, so 9 books. And he ended up doing this other one, and it's ended up being a quartet, but it was like, I want to tell this tale of like, you know, mythic history and like the founding of mythology, of, you know, these epic events. And then I want to tell a story about more of like what we would consider more present day. And these things are they're not so far in the past that they're just make believe, but they're part of their past history. And then a story that goes up into the stars, and a very futuristic, and the events from before are almost like forgotten. And you have all these things weaving into each other with a similar magic system. And I like that idea a lot. I just kind of want this era to wrap up, and let's move to the next one, and hopefully I am a bigger fan of it than I have been of this one. Then I'm going to be reading Lonesome Dove. This is the first book that I am totally diverging from my fantasy books mantra. Before I got into fantasy books, I love historical books. This is a historical fiction, and yeah, I'm really excited. I know a lot of you are going to be hearing this being like, Matt, what are you doing? That's not your Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews. But I want to give some of these historical fiction books a shot. because I think there's a huge crossover between fantasy fans and this type of book. I don't know why. I know it works for me, and I see tons of people that read similar books, and I don't want to be left, behind when I could be reading something I really enjoy. And ultimately, while I do enjoy that you all like this channel, I make this channel for me. It's what I enjoy. I like being in front, talking about books with people, and I want to read this book, so dang it, I'm going to do it. And this is written by Larry McMurtry. I'm not saying that right. And my notes off screen are very tiny to follow this, so I'm not sure if I'm getting that right. And I'm going to finish this up on November 23rd or so. This is 960 pages, and I'm predicting 5 out of 5 stars. This book is so highly regarded. I think it won a Pulitzer Prize. Is that even a thing that they give to books? But it won something big. Everyone talks about this book as being one of the greatest books of its genre. I think loosely it's about some ex-sheriffs that are moving cattle across the country. That's the slow kind of pace, a character-driven book that I want to read about. I love Westerns. I love Western movies. I like Western books. I don't know why I've never read this book before. And I've had this book, I wanted to read this book on audiobook, and I've had it in a backlog for literally months. I don't like to buy books if I can avoid it, if I can get them for free at the library. And I know these books are available. I just can't get my hands on them. And then I was rearranging my bookshelf behind me, and I realized I already have it. I think my mom must have bought it for me at some point or something, and I certainly never bought it. But I was like, oh man, let's move this over to the physical book pile. I can read it right away. So that's why I'm reading it, and I am super looking forward to it. Now, following in that theme, the next book I'm reading is also a non-fantasy book. And that is going to be Gates of Fire. This is by Stephen Pressfield. I'm going to be doing this in audiobook format. Should be finishing it up around the 26th. And this is about 400 pages. And this is about the Battle of Thermopylae. If you're not familiar with those words, think the movie 300, the events that happened there. This is the Spartans trying to make an improbable stop of the Persians that are trying to come into Greece. Through a narrow gap, and they have a very small amount of people. I don't think it was 300, but they have a small amount of people that are trying to stop this invasion from happening. And I am enthralled with that story in general. I have Greek heritage. This is something that my family has talked about for a long time. A lot of people in my family have told me that I have to read this book. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to read it, and I think it's going to be a 5 out of 5 for me also. The last book of the month, we're going back to fantasy. I'm going back to my bread and butter, and this is going to be Unseen Academicals. This is by Terry Pratchett. This is part of Discworld. I'm going to be reading this in physical book format. Should be finishing it up around the 27th, and it's another 400-page book. And I'm going to guess 4 out of 5. I always predict that these Discworld books are going to be 4 out of 5, especially not when they're not part of the City Watch sub-series. I usually say 5 out of 5 for those, but all the other ones I say 4 out of 5, and usually I'm right. That's about how much I like them. Although I like what this is satiring. It's a satire of soccer, and I am a big soccer fan. I'm a big sports fan. I like football, I like baseball, I like soccer. I watch a lot of English soccer, which I'm guessing Terry Pratchett is English. I'm excited. I haven't been that excited for a non-City Watch Discworld book in a long time. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope that I am low on my prediction. I hope this ends up being a 5, because I'm almost out of Discworld books. I want to see another 5 before I'm done. I think I only have a very small amount of Discworld books left. I'm doing these chronologically, which nobody suggests you do. I don't suggest you do it, but I'm kind of really OCD, and so I kind of have to do it like that. It's just in my brain. It makes me do things, and that's what it's making me do. This month, my average pages per book is 585 pages. I am predicting an average score of 4.13, which is low for me on my predicteds. I'm usually way more optimistic, but it is what it is. My lifetime average for a book page length is 508. So with this one being 585, a little bit bigger books than normal. And my average lifetime score is 3.97. So 4.13 is higher. I'm almost always predicting higher than what my actual scores are, because I don't know. I'm an optimistic guy. What can I say? So that is my list. If you've read these books, let me know your thoughts about these books down below. I would love you to come join the Discord to talk about these books as I'm reading along with them. You know what dates I'm going to finish them, so you know when we can start talking about them. And as we're going along, let's talk spoilers. Let's have a good time. I hope you can join me. The link is down below. So thank you for making it this far into the video. I appreciate it. And as always, happy reading to you.